What is up, everyone? I hope you're doing great today. This is Raphael Garcia here on Saturday. No, today's Friday, January 8th, 2021, and we're here for episode 80 of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. And I want to take a minute to say I hope you are all doing well, protecting your mental health, and just staying sane in these crazy ass times we are seeing. We're 8 days into the year, and it's already gone FUBAR, and there's no telling how bad it will get from here on out, or what's the next crazy ass shit we will end up seeing. So buckle up, motherfuckers, and hold on to your butts, as Samuel L. Jackson once said. But tonight I'm here to talk to you about some pro wrestling, and we have quite a bit to talk about because there was some excellent wrestling all this week. But before we hop into that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. And as always, this podcast is available on MMAratings.net and MMAratings.com. Those are our two main platforms there. And you can check us out across social media at MMA Ratings Net in both Instagram and Twitter. Best way to catch up with us there. You can hit me on both platforms at rgarcia_sports. This podcast, along with the MMA Ratings podcast, which is every Tuesday, can be found on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple iTunes, and Breaker. Check us all out there. And you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a like and follow there too. Thank you. As always, 2020 was a year of huge growth for this platform. We are hoping that it continues into 2021. Let's see if we can hit some goals this year, and I hope we exceed some to maybe be able to finally monetize this platform again and start to do some things in that space. So again, thank you for everyone who takes the time to check out our content, and let's go ahead and jump into talking about some pro wrestling. I'm going to start with talking about Wrestle Kingdom 15, which was this Monday, and was it Sunday and Monday? Look, all I know is these joints were early as hell, and I cannot believe I made it completely through night one without any naps beforehand. Night two, I tried to take a nap right before the show and woke up at 6:30. I think when the main event was on, and I just said, "To hell with it, I'm going back to bed and not getting up." And I watched it again later on that day, right after I got out of work. Wrestle Kingdom 15 was an excellent show. And if you are a fan of professional wrestling, I implore you to go back and watch this show. If you don't want to pay for New Japan Pro Wrestling for the whole year, no problem. But at least pay for it in January. Watching this show, obviously, we're watching it on New Japan World. We're watching it from across the world. It was a moment. It was a moment in wrestling Twitter for me because everybody was up my Twitter feed was ablaze with people talking about the show, checking on each other, make sure you're still up, making sure you've taken your energy drink to make it through the main event because everyone knew it was going to be worth it. This was a moment in wrestling that it was just good to be a wrestling fan, and I really enjoyed it. When the show started, the first thing that got to me was seeing all those people there live watching the show as we've been stuck in the home, for 10 months now in the United States. There were, I think I saw a number of 7,801 live attendance number. Who knows when we'll be able to get back to that here in the United States? Who knows? Who knows? Not going to be this year. I can pretty much say that. But that was the first thing that stood out to me was watching all these people be able to watch pro wrestling in person. Yeah, they were told that they can't make any audible noises with vocal noises, vocal cheering, but they were able to clap and applaud, and you could tell too that telling people they cannot cheer, hearing some of the groans and the moment when they wanted to make a noise but they couldn't, it lets you know just how important those moments were. If you go back and watch the match between Ibushi and Jay White, There was plenty of them. People wanting to cheer, and they just couldn't. Ibushi wins the title. I think people just said, "Fuck it, we're gonna cheer," because that was a moment. Or when he won the title, and then when he defeated Jay White the next night, you know that was just going to be a moment. Everything about this show was excellent. I'm just going to talk about some of the matches that stood out to me, some of the ones I enjoyed, some of the ones I may take some time this weekend to go back and rewatch, just because it's lockdown weekends. Got shit else to do. Takahashi versus El Phantasmo was a great match, and this one they kind of booked themselves into a corner because clearly they weren't going to do El Phantasmo versus Ishimori. They weren't going to do two Bullet Club members facing off each other without a story there. So of course Takahashi was going to get the win. It was a great match, though. Again, this is one that you can go back and watch, and it's interesting because listening to the Corner podcast today, today and yesterday, they were throwing the idea out there of El Phantasmo being the one to rise up and become a leader within the Bullet Club, become the next guy to go from the juniors to the heavyweight scene, and I will be down for that. I would be down for that. El Phantasmo, he has won me over of recently, and I am a fan of his performance in the ring. I think this guy can go. If he beats up and goes through the proper steps as everyone else has, I think he could have a strong run as a heavyweight guy. I don't think Takahashi has a body for a heavyweight run, but the way they're talking about him, especially the way they were talking about him after he defeated Ishimori on night two, it seems like they have some big plans for this guy, which you can't ignore him because he has such a huge personality that he has main event written all over him. Ishimori and Takahashi was a co-main event on night two, so I'll let you know just how important that match was and how important he is as a figure in this promotion. I think it's going to be a pretty strong and enjoyable run for him, and I'm just going to go ahead and talk about him and Ishimori as well. This match was a very good sprint. I enjoyed it. Didn't have a lot of slow spots, didn't have a lot of rest holds. These guys go. Ishimori is so small. He's 5'4", I think 165 or so. The dude has muscles upon muscles, and he's almost 40 years old. I was looking at him like he's a little bit older than me, and I was looking at it like I need to figure out how to look like this guy in the next couple of years. I'm going to mark your words, mark my words. Excuse me. I'm going to look like him because I'm going to be jacked. But still, dude looked like a powerhouse, and he wrestles bigger than he is, and he looks bigger than he is, even though he's not. And I think that really delivers well on screen. I'm a fan of his, and I'm a fan of his work. It sucks that he did not get a solid run as champion thanks to COVID, but I don't think he's going to be out of that title picture for too long. I want to talk about Okada versus Ospreay next, and this was fun. And what I mean about this being fun is that I feel like we all knew Okada was going to win, and we knew he was going to win when he said, "Fuck it, I'm going with the Rainmaker, and I'm going to put this guy down." As you all know, his story arc has been him looking for ways to reinvent himself. He was wrestling in the pants for a little while, and everyone was like, "What the hell is this?" He started using a money clip, which is it's a rest hold. It's a Baron Corbin rest hold 101. He was trying to use a money clip, trying to get that over, and he could not put Will Ospreay away with it. So as he kept getting more and more frustrated in the match, and Ospreay kept fighting out of stuff and fighting back, he just said to hell with it, and he planted him with the beautiful Rainmaker. And the crowd's response when he hit it, again, it was another one of those moments where they wanted to cheer, but they couldn't because they were trying to stay COVID compliant. And it was just an enjoyable moment. I will not lie, I have not been the biggest fan of Okada. Obviously, I first heard of him during the Kenny Omega run, and I think the first match of his I saw was a match against Marty Scurll at All In or All Out, whichever one that was, before AEW was AEW. And I was not impressed. I went back and watched the other matches, with Okada, which were excellent, as everyone in their right mind said. But at first, I was not that impressed with Kazuchika Okada. He's grown on me, but he's still not my favorite guy to watch in New Japan. I like Jay White more. I like Kota Ibushi more. I like Shingo. I like Jeff Cobb. I like Takahashi. I like Ishimori. I get why Okada is the. I like Tanahashi more. I get why Okada is the ace today, but I'm not the biggest fan of his. However, this match rocked, and this is another one of those matches I plan on going back to seeing. I'm wondering what they're going to do next with Osprey and the Empire because they lost all their matches tonight or during Wrestle Kingdom, but then they beat everybody the hell up at New Year's Dash the next day. So I'm not quite sure what they're going to do with them and if they're going to become like the next big stable or how they become the next big stable, especially since they don't have any champions. But I don't think them losing like this was a burial at all. I think it'll just be an inflection point for them to move on to bigger things. So yes, this is definitely one of the matches you should go back and make time to watch. Will Ospreay versus Okada. My favorite. I'm gonna talk about the two Ibushi matches together. My favorite match of the night and probably my favorite match of the week. Jeff Cobb versus Shingo Takagi was absolutely bonkers. It's two. If people use the term hall spot battle, big meaty men slapping meat, just two sirloin beef, something like all those terms you hear in all these different other podcasts. This match was all of it. Two big, strong, mean motherfuckers beating the shit out of each other for 20 minutes. I think this match was 23 minutes or so. And I watched the whole thing just glued to my screen. Didn't look away, not once. My one complaint about a lot of Wrestle Kingdom matches was that they went a little bit too long. You could have shaved 10 minutes off of Ibushi and Jay White. You could have easily shaved 10 and made it a 38-minute match, a 30-minute match, and it would have been just as good. This Shingo Jeff Cobb match, do not touch it. Don't take a minute off of this match at all. Because these two big men beat the hell out of each other. Yes, it started a little bit slow, but the minute Jeff Cobb and Shingo go outside the ring for the first time, and Cobb hits that belly to belly suplex where Shingo fucking goes perpendicular to the floor for a second and like hangs there. Like he's gonna die. He's gonna land on his head and this is gonna be it and they're gonna shut down the show. No, he made the full rotation, got over, but from that point on, they went to work. You have Jeff Cobb in there hitting, I don't even know how to describe it, hitting a moonsault sidewalk, not moonsault, the fuck was that move? Is it a sidewalk slam? No, whatever that fall away slam, whatever it was, like a power. He has Shingo in his arms, does a moonsault with the dude who weighs nearly 300 pounds. Jeff Cobb weighs close to 300 pounds, does a moonsault and lands on top. I'm just looking like these two guys should not be able to do this type of stuff, and they did it, and they made it look good every second of the way. Again, if you do not watch any match from this week, whether it's New Year's Dash, New Year's Evil, Wrestle Kingdom, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, whatever it may be, if there's one match you want to go back, you have to go back and see, is it this one? This is going to be on the list of Match of the Year candidates already. There's like 4 or 5 Match of the Year candidates this week alone already that will be on the list in the top 10. This is going to be one of them, and this could easily win right now just because of the show that they put on for 23 minutes on what was it? This was night 2. Yes, this was night 2. Amazing match. Go back and watch it. Let's see. I already talked about that one. Ibushi versus Naito and Ibushi versus Ryder. I'm gonna talk about both of them. So in writing about this event this week, I wrote about it on Tuesday, I believe, Monday and Tuesday. Kota Ibushi might be the best wrestler in the world. it may be a time soon where we're talking about Jay White in that fashion, but Kota Ibushi might be the best wrestler in the world. The dude can go, and his facial expressions are fantastic because they scream, "I am going to murder you," even though I'm the babyface, and you kind of believe it. Like you look at him like he might be a little bit of a sociopath. Sociopath. He might be about to hurt me. There's nothing Kota Ibushi can't do. He can strike. He can high fly. He can be technical. He can brawl. I don't know his promo skills because I don't speak Japanese. But man, he might be the best wrestler in the industry right now. And these two matches really stand out to me as a coming out moment. The match with Naito, I really felt like we knew he was going to go over. I knew you knew he was going to come out of this event with both belts. The match with Naito was something special. See him win, and you get a little bit emotional at that point because he's failed so many times at reaching this point. To see him win it and to see the crowd reaction and see them with him in that moment was fantastic. I'm glad that this was in front of a crowd because you got a little bit of that moment. Great, great night of action. Then to see him defeat Jay White the next night was even bigger. And this is one of the few times where I've watched New Japan and watched it with the English commentary. Because I don't usually like the English commentary on New Japan shows. But this one was fantastic because they were able, Rocky Romero was getting emotional, Kevin Kelly was getting emotional. You could hear it in their voices. They delivered through this match fantastic, in a fantastic fashion. If you look at the second night, the call when Ibushi gets the pinfall was perfect. I really appreciated the commentary for both of these matches. I don't really remember it too much for the Naito match, but I specifically remember it for the being good for the Jay White match, and that was exceptional to me. Go back if you have time, make time if you're a wrestling fan and you're listening to the show, so you should be a wrestling fan. Go back and watch majority of Wrestle Kingdom 15 both nights. There's shit you can skip. Skip the King of Pro Wrestling stuff. I would skip the Sonata vs. Evil. Skip that. Sonata's the next title challenge too, by the way. But you can still skip that match. What else? You can skip tag team matches. Kenta versus Kojima. Okay. John Moxley appeared though. Tanahashi versus Great-O-Khan. You can skip that as well too. Everything about this was a good night of wrestling, an enjoyable night of wrestling. Go back and watch this because it was something to see. All right, so let's move on and let's talk about NXT New Year's Evil. That was Wednesday. This was a good show. Now, man, everyone knows what happened Wednesday. We had MAGA MAGA Central storming the Capitol on Wednesday, being the inflection point of white privilege, ignorance, racism, disinformation, all of those all of those points of ignorance swelled into one. Everyone knows what happened there. NXT and AEW got smashed in the ratings because of it. They had these excellent shows, and neither one of them broke 700. I think the numbers were 662 to 642, something like that, something along those lines. But there was like 20,000 viewers in between both of them. And I just wanted to point that out. I don't care too much about the ratings. I'm not one of these guys that hops on social media and argues about the ratings every week. But that stood out to me because they got super crushed because of what happened earlier that day. And all of that shit is Donald Trump's fault. We can talk about that on another podcast. That's a slippery slope to go down. But yeah, there's no time for that. But let's talk about some pro wrestling. So where am I going to start here? As you guys know, I don't usually talk about matches I don't care about because I don't want to waste anyone's time. However, New Year's Evil was an excellent show from top to bottom. Myself and my colleague over at Data DDT are splitting the Wednesday night show, so I do NXT, he does AEW. NXT New Year's Evil was a show that I enjoyed every single match from top to bottom. The impromptu match, Kushida versus Shotzi Blackheart versus Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano. I know that's only to get to Kushida versus Gargano, no problem. I know one thing. Kushida better win that fucking belt from Johnny Gargano. Period. They've been building this man up since September. He has not been pinned since then. They better not blow this shit because people want to see Kushida do big things in NXT. They need to get this right, and I hope they do. So that was a fun little addition to the match, or to the night. Santos Escobar versus Grand Metalik. I knew that they were going to tear it up when they got the opportunity to, and this was a fun match. Obviously Santos Escobar was set to win. That was pretty clear to me and to everyone else. But I really enjoyed this match. They went about 13 minutes. One thing I will say is that I wish that Lince Dorado had this spot. I think Lince is someone that we're overlooking. The man can talk. I heard he looks good under that mask too. Puerto Rican from New York. They have a character there that they can work with. I want to see him get some grub, some rub. I want to see him get some shine. I think that he can have a solid run as a cruiserweight. They don't do much with this cruiserweight title. I think that there's opportunity there that they may have missed out on. Grand Metalik is good, fantastic, but Lince Dorado, they should have done something with that Kalisto split. They didn't. I don't even know if Kalisto's been on TV outside of chasing after R-Truth, but they have something there. I like Santos Escobar. I think that the Legado del Fantasma and the Dusty Classic will be a good thing, but he just has not been utilized to the best fashion since coming over to WWE, which is par for the course with these guys. They bring over excellent talent and they just do not do enough with them. But this was another good match. I want to see more of Santos Escobar and I want to see more of Lince Dorado as a singles wrestler. Xia Li, she returned and she smashed Katarina Cortez in less than 2 minutes. Let's see what they do here, man. I like Xia Li. I've been a big fan of hers for a minute, probably for the wrong reasons, but I'm still a fan of hers. And I think she's going to do fine with this new heel gimmick. Karrion Kross versus Damian Priest. This was a good match. I have not been a fan of Karrion Kross. Not been a fan of him since he's come up or since he's come to NXT. I didn't like the way they jobbed out Keith Lee to put the belts on him. But this was a good reintroduction. It made Damian Priest look good in defeat. There was that rumor going around that Priest was supposed to be called up last week to SmackDown. I think he's going to be called up for the Rumble. We'll see. We'll see with this angle going on with Adam Pearce and Roman Reigns, how that plays out. But I think he's going to be called up for the Rumble. We can only hope. This was a good way to see him go out on NXT. And that's kind of what happened as well in the Rhea Ripley match. We'll talk about that next. But we know Karrion Kross is going to be next up for Finn Balor, and I expect him to win the belt back there. So let's hope that they keep this momentum working, because I wasn't a fan of how he was first introduced to the organization. But this was a good kind of refresh and rebrand and reintroduction for Karrion Kross and Scarlett. The Raquel Gonzalez and Rhea Ripley match. This was excellent as well too. This was another good this was a good showcase of pro wrestling. And I wrote about this. I wrote about this after our last show last year. But Raquel Gonzalez and Rhea Ripley can both be main champions in NXT. They do not have to be just women's champions. They are big personalities that I think exude just as much character as the top level men, period. Raquel is bigger than majority of the recent NXT champions. She's bigger than Adam Cole, bigger than Finn Balor, bigger than Johnny Gargano, bigger than Tommaso Ciampa. So I don't want to hear anything about size. Raquel is more interesting than Ciampa, Gargano, maybe even Finn right now. It'll never. I don't. They would never do it, but that's something that I think that could happen. I thought this match was going to main event because I expected a little bit more out of him, but I thought that this match was going to main event. Raquel gets the win. I was going to say clean, but Dakota Kai did interrupt. It was a nice little spot with Rhea Ripley stashing her in the locker and locking her in there. Thought that was cute. It was a good finish with Raquel slamming Rhea through the cage or through the stage. I just like Damian Priest. I think it's this time for Rhea Ripley to get called up to the main roster. I've written about this a couple times. She fits in perfectly, I think, with the Raw brand right now. And what I mean by that is you have Charlotte who's chasing out there, who might be tag team champions with Asuka, but she's not really. Uh, that's not her end goal. Her end goal is getting that Raw title back, and I think putting the belt on her allows Rhea to come back and be the one to take it off of her, knowing their history, and they can claim that that was always the goal or the end game for the storyline. We all know better, but they can claim that that was the point of putting these ladies together in the end and having Charlotte defeat Rhea at WrestleMania last year. Rhea should enter the Rumble. Right now, if I had to make a pick on who wins it, I'm going either Bianca Belair or Rhea Ripley. Those are my two choices. Hopefully it's Bianca, but we'll see. Then that brings us to the main event where Finn Balor defeated Kyle O'Reilly via submission in 17 minutes. Now, let's talk about this match. First off, this was a good match. Was it better than their first one? No. The reason why I don't think it was better than their first one, there's a couple of different reasons, is because it felt forced to me. Looking at how the first one went, in my opinion, this match did not need to happen as soon as it did after that. My option would have been to go with Pete Dunne instead and have that match because I think that it would have been Pete Dunne and Finn Balor would have been excellent, excellent one-on-one affair. But they went to this match too soon, and I think it impacted the way it was perceived because it's compared to the first one, which doesn't work for me because I think that the first one was better. Usually, like sequels, the first one is going to be better. The ending made sense. The story made sense. Finn Balor was trying to injure at Kyle O'Reilly the same way Kyle injured his jaw, and that worked. But now what? For a hot second, I'm like, yo, Kyle O'Reilly may be about to win the belt, but that did not happen. So now I'm looking at this like, now what? What do you do with Undisputed Era? You have Roddy and Adam going into the Dusty Classic. I don't think they're going to win that. So what do you do with this group now? Do you prepare to call them up? Do you have them in the Rumble? What do you do with this group? 'Cause I feel like they're at such a odd point right now that there isn't an easy way to fix this, and WWE doesn't fix things well. If nothing else, they'll fuck this up some way, shape, or form. They probably already have. But how do you fix this group who was a main event staple for so long? Now the main event has kind of moved past them, and you need to figure out what to do with them next. I mean, damn, now that I think about it, Pat McAfee's group hasn't been on television for what, 2 weeks now? So that's not there. We've wanted to know if uh, Adam Cole was going to kick O'Reilly out of the group. That seems like one way they could go. I think Bobby Fish is hurt again. He hasn't been on TV. So there's so many different questions to ask about them right now. You gotta wonder what they're gonna do with them. This match didn't help any of that. It made Finn look okay. It made Finn look good. But we know what's next for him. We know it's Karrion Kross, most likely. 90% is Karrion Kross, and he's going to lose that feud. So no one really looks good coming out of this. No one looks strong. No one looks better, in my opinion. But we'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out on NXT TV. Let's spend a couple minutes talking about Raw and SmackDown this week. Raw Legends Night was Monday. I think it was shit. If anything, go back and watch what's his name, Mustafa Ali's promo on Raw Talk or whatever that show is called, where he shits all over Legends Night, which is exactly what it should have been. First, like I don't ever need to see Hulk Hogan on my television again. I don't need to see Ric Flair. I don't need to see Melina, Tori Wilson. I don't need to see any of their asses. But one interesting thing that came out of Legends Night was the praise that Alicia Fox was getting, and there's a movement for Alicia to be recognized for being a better wrestler than people thought she was because she was saddled during her era. And, I can get behind that. If you look at her moveset was great. There's a video going around of her, showing her Northern Light suplex, her backbreaker, her big boot. She has some moves in there. And I think it's worth recognizing her that she was definitely a lot better than people remember. So that is definitely something worth seeing, something worth talking about. Because black women in wrestling don't get the praise that they deserve. Naomi doesn't get the praise. Jacqueline, Jazz, Alicia Fox is now part of that group. Sasha Banks won't. You see, they won't. We're biting our nails about her current title run and seeing how long that lasts. They don't even give her praise. They don't even talk about her being in The Mandalorian because they don't want her to get that shine. So hopefully we'll see some praise come Alicia Fox's way. But it was interesting seeing how people were talking about her. Did Raw Legends Night work? Well, it hit 2 million viewers, which, looking back, how they were hovering around the 1.5 number for so many weeks. Yeah, that's a boost. There was no football, so that's also important to talk about. So we'll see what next week's numbers or the next couple of weeks' numbers look like. The big angle, however, was the return of one Mr. Bill Goldberg. So I'm gonna just go ahead and say, fuck Bill Goldberg. I'm not a fan. Never was growing up. So to see him come back and to see him attack Drew McIntyre, it doesn't make sense. It makes absolute zero sense. McIntyre has been the guy who was defending Legends for months on end from Randy Orton. Randy Orton was out there crucifying guys one after another, after another, after another. It's almost like he was putting old guys out to pasture every week. Drew McIntyre beat him multiple times. Why does Bill Goldberg have a problem with Drew McIntyre for not respecting legends. Does not make sense. If you want Goldberg to have a match that can draw attention, book that match against Randy Orton, the legend killer versus the legend that he can't kill. That would have been some intriguing television. That could have been a big match at the Royal Rumble. But instead, they give us Keith Lee and Drew McIntyre, which is an excellent Raw match. You should go back and watch it. It was fun, enjoyable from start to finish. But Keith Lee loses, understandably, and just disappears into the background again for Bill Goldberg. Is Bill going to beat Drew? I don't believe so. But he shouldn't even be in this match. But this is what WWE does. And what's sad is that will more people watch next week? Probably. Which means that in their mind, they're thinking, oh, this is working. Let's keep it rolling. But no, I like at some point in time, we got to get away from these older guys taking the spotlight. And that's exactly what Bill's doing, taking the spotlight. Am I excited to see this match? Absolutely not. But it's a match we're going to get. So we're going to get what we're going to get. Over on SmackDown, you have the main angle being Roman Reigns and Adam Pearce. How did we get here? So I'm sure many people saw what happened happened on Friday with this match. There's the gauntlet match. Let's talk about that gauntlet match real quick, where you have Shinsuke Nakamura tearing it the fuck up. Joked on Twitter that Shinsuke saw his boys back home killing it over in Wrestle Kingdom. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna let everybody know that I still got it. So this dude goes out there and defeats Rey Mysterio, Baron Corbin, and Daniel Bryan. And then it's supposed to be him and Pierce and Roman Reigns and crew come out, beat up Shinsuke Nakamura, and knock out Adam Pearce and throw him on top of Shinsuke, giving Adam Pearce the victory. And now he is facing Roman Reigns at Royal Rumble for a singles match. I get what they're going for. Some people are mad about it. I'm not too mad about it because I don't think it's going to happen. I think it'll be some type of introduction. Maybe that's how we get Damian Priest. I don't know. But let's see what happens. People are up in arms about it. Whatever. It's whatever. Let's see. Let's see what occurs here. It's not like Adam Pearce wasn't a wrestler. He's 42 years old. Okay, fine. He's a five-time NWA champion. He's not bad. So let's see. Let's see how this is gonna play out. But I get why people are a little bit pissed about it because it's typical WWE booking. Now let's hop over to AEW. Talk about New Year's Smash a little bit. I'm not gonna talk about the whole card. Sheeta versus Abaddon. I was wondering if they were going to put the title on Abaddon because the way they were building her made it seem like they should, making her like a monster type of character that doesn't die, who bites people, all that other good stuff, just to come out and lose. Whatever you say, okay, no problem. She did not get the job done. Sheeta's still your champion. It's unfortunate because I think she had a hell of a 2020 last year, but this run isn't doing her any justice. She has the belt, but she doesn't feel like a star. It just really feels like they're just waiting to put the belt on Britt Baker before they really elevate that division, and that really just sucks because it's no different than what WWE does with Asuka. So I hope that I'm wrong in making that assumption, but Sheeta just doesn't feel like she's being serviced by her title run right now. She seems much more, she's better than is being presented. she's a bigger name. She should be a bigger name than it's being presented, and I hope that she finally gets an opportunity to look better in that spot. We also got Ray Phoenix versus Kenny Omega, and this is what we've been waiting for. This Kenny Omega to come back, the cleaner, the best bout machine, and we're getting all that at once. This is, if you don't think Shingo versus Jeff Cobb is the best match of the week, then it's easily this one. This is another one to go back and watch and just kind of relish in it. Don't get distracted by anything. Just sit back and watch it and enjoy it. It'll be it's a treat. It's a treat for professional wrestling fans. We got the big angle at the end with the Bullet Club basically being reformed. And I say that with a question mark because obviously you have Omega and the Good Brothers. The Young Bucks didn't look like they were totally down with it. Adam Page clearly wasn't there. So there's no telling where this angle's going to go. Maybe there's some issue with the guys from New Japan who take onus with this. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of different ways that this can go, and I'm kind of intrigued in seeing how they make it all work. Because again, that's what AEW is good at. They're good at making everything work. So let's see how they kind of tie this all together and make this work. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of this episode of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. So, my name is Raphael Garcia. Thank you again for taking the time to check us out. Please be sure to hop on over to MMAratings.net, catch all of our content there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at MMA Ratings on YouTube. Subscribe to our podcast channels on all the different podcast networks, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple iTunes, Breaker, and wherever else you can find us. Please be sure to share our content as well if you would be so kind. You can hit me up on Instagram and Twitter, rgarcia_sports. As always, I thank you for all you do. Everyone, have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe. Wear your mask. And remember, Black Lives Matter.